Fitchburg is an old mill city. Geography, the steep hills and small river valley determined its current face. The river and lush woodlands provided rich fishing and hunting areas for Native Americans. The river discouraged early European settlers from living here. Periodic flooding destroyed bridges and thoroughfares. The steep land could be cleared for small livestock, but it wasn't easy to grow crops. Soon, settlers discovered the river, the north branch of the Nashua River, was perfectly suited for the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Factories of all types, textiles, carriages, musical instrument manufacturers, arms works, popped up throughout the 19th century. The river supplied both power and a way to flush the machinery. The river, once free-flowing, was segmented by dams into mill ponds. Industries flourished along the banks of the Nashua. Mill workers lived close by their jobs, in crowded neighborhoods running up the sides of the hills. By the middle of the 20th century, the river was dead. The once life-giving water was polluted by industrial waste and untreated sewerage from the surrounding neighborhoods. It was not fit to use in a boiler, declared too contaminated to use even for sewage, and the primary life form was sewage worms.
It ran pretty thick and colorful.
It was fairly nasty, different colors, red, white, and blue for the 4th of July.
Different color every day.
Just see how thick it was, and it smelled, and it was colorful.
The pulp would start deteriorating, and it smelled.
Oh, it smelled rotten eggs, I would say. It really did smell.
A decades-long effort, spearheaded by Groton's Marion Stoddard and supported by many in Fitchburg, cleaned up the river. Her pioneering work has been written up by National Geographic and Christian Science Monitor.
It was in National Geographic, and it was one of the country's best cleanup jobs.
A documentary, Work of 1,000, was completed in 2009.
So that's a biggie, boy, to think that now we have the river clean and you don't have all those paper mills. And one of the things that I found was very, very interesting when we had a charter commission many years ago, and I was on it, and there were actually ordinances passed by the city of Fitchburg to allow the mills to dump into the Nashua River.
Of course, you know, the paper mills were what Fitchburg was all about, and they were here because of the river, and they could dump into the river at that time. So it was only later on that they started figuring out this is not a good thing.
Bill Flynn, elected mayor in 1968, was one of the first people in modern times to canoe in the still, murky water. Now the river even supports a bustling restaurant with a gift shop, plant and garden items, and beer and wine.
It's kind of like what we don't do. We get about 10 businesses wrapped into one. We start off in the morning selling coffee and bakery goods and sandwiches and deli meat, produce and grocery items and flowers and mulch. And
our motto is anything that's good or good for you, try to be natural as we can.
Mill number 3 sits on a gentle curve where the old number 3 mill used to be.
People come and they get their sandwiches and they sit on the river and have their lunch. They will sit there for an afternoon. There's something calming about sitting on the river and having your lunch, and literally we'll sit there 3 hours. I don't think it's our sandwiches. I think it might be the river, but we'll take credit on the sandwiches. People literally are shocked. People will come in to return their baskets and say, I can't believe I just had lunch on the banks of the Nashua River, and enjoy it, really enjoy the river.
it's fairly clean. I don't know, I wouldn't eat any fish out of it. I haven't been in it too many times. The smell's gone. It's kind of, you can smell something when it rains a lot, but I think it's just everything getting turned over.
More work remains to be done, though. Storm runoff and untreated sewage still continue to poison the water. Environmentalists monitor water quality regularly and work with the city to improve sewage. While cleanup was not an issue for the Malloys, the nearby half-mile-long steam line trail, opened in 2006, is temporarily closed to remove contaminated soils. Most of the paper mills and the steam plant were closed by the mid-1990s. The steam plant, containing asbestos, has been boarded up and will be fenced to keep people out until it can be cleaned. Work on the soil is expected to be finished by mid-July 2011, and the trail will be reopened. As industrialists dammed the river and used it as a commodity, they came to rely on it as a dependable and predictable source of power and water. But rivers flood, and often with disastrous results. This was not acceptable, and after the floods in 1936, the Army Corps of Engineers channelized the river, replacing banks and shorelines with high walls, sealing most of the river from sight, if not smell. Recently, the city has received grants to open the river back up, making it more integral to local people. Crews removed walls at Riverfront Park, opening access to the river. Gateway Park, expected to be completed fall 2011, will have a clear view of the river. A trail between this park and the intersection of River Street and Wallace Road provides another link in what planners hope will become a trail system all along the river. Like other city parks, Gateway will provide more than a view. Community gardens are planned for passive use. The city maintains playgrounds across the city, providing a place for children and adults to recreate.
Passive Park is a park that's used for simply people walking in and out, more or less meditating. It's a park that we do not allow playgrounds, any sort of sports in situations like that. We really need a passive park to just have people go in and sit down or even walk around quietly. This could be considered a passive park because this is a great park for people to walk because people actually walk all the way around. We also have a playground over here that's kind of separate, even though the lake is here and the swans are here and everybody comes to feed the ducks. But that playground does not have a playground director.
Improvements continue to be made on older parks.
The biggest thing too at Coolidge and Park Hill and all of these parks, we have walking parks in there. And this is for the adults. I mean, basically the adults. But all our parks now, if we haven't got them, we are working on getting a walking park in each park that we have. Howard Park, that's a pet project of mine, Howard Park, because it goes back to when I was on the city council. That the lower part of Howard Park, the top part was done with CBDG money, and now the lower part is finally getting done after some 25 years of begging to get it done. They are fixing the basketball court there too. We also had sort of a baseball field down at Howard Park, but we are now making it into an open park so that it can be used for the baseball, softball, football, soccer.
Sometimes the improvements are driven by circumstances.
At Park Hill, we had a robage pond, and then we also had at Coolidge, we had a pond down there. But due to the fact that we had 2 drownings, that this is when the city decided we can't have these ponds, and we can't have the youngsters swimming in these ponds because, first of all, they're too dirty and they're murky, and when the child went in the pond, they couldn't find them. But if you have a pool, then that's a different story. At least you can see them.
The city pool at Coolidge, built during Whitney's administration, closed in 2007 because of budgetary reasons. It will reopen in the summer of 2011. The city supplied enough money to open just the main pool. Parks commissioners and other volunteers did the labor needed to open the children's splash pool. In the summer, the parks and playgrounds are often more than just a place to hang out for some of the kids.
The reason that I consistently asked to have the pool open was because it's part of our summer program. And what we need to do on the summer program, it's the same as having playground directors in each park. Just because the kids are there, and our biggest thing is, in the summer program, is feeding these youngsters every day, because some of the youngsters are used to getting fed through the schools, and then they go out in the summertime, and that's probably the only meal some of them get.
One of the oldest parks, Coggeshall, was built on land given by Henry Coggeshall, a wealthy landowner who lived on Mount Elam Road. Generations of residents have visited the park winter and summer.
All winter, even just our own, we came up skating, and the skating events, because I was in high school when Arthur Alonso skated up here.
Thousands can be accommodated in its many acres. 10 to 12,000 people would go to the speed skating meets in the 1940s and 1950s.
When we have the concerts, they line up all along the street, all along the lake, and all along here, because when we have the concerts are, you can hear them from here all the way over to the other side, up on, almost on Mount Elam Road. So we have room for a lot of people. The only problem now is cars. And you know, years ago you walked in, but now you have the cars. So what we do is we open that back road and we let them in this way and out the other way.
Over the course of the years, many improvements have been made to Coggeshall, often by outside sources. During the Depression, federal workers were located there. The Neighborhood Youth Corps was on the scene in the 1970s. After the December 2008 ice storm, the iconic stone house burned, leaving only the walls, fireplace, and floors. Once again, an outside group came to the rescue.
This whole top of the building was burned to cinders. And of course you go after the insurance, and the insurance doesn't cover everything. But what had happened was that the superintendent of Monty Tech said that maybe his students could help, and we all thought it was a great idea. And we made an agreement with the insurance company that we would have the Monty Tech kids come, and they did an absolute superb job. I did find that the students here were very enthusiastic about rebuilding this, and I also found that the instructors really made the kids do what was right, even to the point where if they did it wrong, the instructors made them take it down and start all over again. I was very pleased to see that, because the instructors not only instructed the kids to do what was going on in the building contractors, but also to let them know that if you go out in the world and you're going to do a job for somebody, you got to do it right.
In the past 20 years, the Friends of Coggeshall Park have taken the lead in caring for the park.
We have the Friends of Coggeshall who do quite a bit of work here every single year. In fact, what we do is we manage to do all the mulching, do all the work, and we go to the city council each year and tell them we're going to do $10,000, $8,000 worth of work, and they say go ahead and do it, but the Friends of Coggeshall do it.
Others help too.
There's a lot of trails around here. In fact, we have Eagle Scouts redoing the trails. Because of the ice storm, there was a lot of trees down, and we just don't have the manpower to repair them.
The new parks in Fitchburg, built with grant money, will need similar supporters.
The problem with getting grants like that is, what do we do with it after they leave? I mean, it's all well and good to build a park, but now we have to maintain it, and that's one of our projects that we have to go with. Same way with Riverfront Park, we have to maintain it.
Cemeteries provide other welcome swaths of green within the city limits. Forest Hill, founded in 1856, is the city's largest graveyard. An area at the corner has been landscaped and benches added to make it friendlier for cemetery visitors and people walking along the trail. Some cemeteries have historical value. Graves in the South Street Cemetery were moved there from another location in the 1760s. Laurel Hill Cemetery, opened in 1792, with its acres of terracing, provides an unparalleled view of the surrounding hills and a maintenance nightmare. The cemetery department struggles to stay on top of crumbling retaining walls and stones toppled by time and vandals. Dean Hill Cemetery, opened in 1800, was neglected and overgrown until a group of volunteers took it in hand. They have cleared trees, rebuilt stone walls, and replaced headstones. The next project is removing the stumps once they have rotted. West Street Cemetery, so easily missed, runs along a narrow ledge overlooking the mills. Water Department employees found a graveyard on land near Scott Reservoir. The three-grave site dates from 1865 and had gone unnoticed and unrecorded for decades. One of the interred, a veteran, is now honored with a flag on Memorial Day. Acres upon acres of the land near the small burial site is part of the watershed, land that feeds into the river. Many of Fitchburg's reservoirs are located there, and much of this northern part of the city is protected land. Conservation restrictions limit what uses can happen there. The land is open for recreational use. In close proximity to the congested neighborhoods, trails honeycomb the hills. Some of the land is old, overgrown farms. Large parcels are owned by the city and the Audubon Society. Other parcels are controlled by the North County Land Trust. Overlook Reservoir is man-made, finished in the 1870s. Since its construction, it has been a popular destination for city residents. Even before the days of organized playgrounds, people got outside. Still, dog walkers, cross-country skiers, blueberriers, runners, and mountain bikers are common sights on the trail. Other areas of open land dot the city. Oak Hill Country Club, with an 18-hole golf course, draws golfers from across the region. Sima Park, with kilometers of lighted cross-country ski trails, is used in all seasons by athletes and is a popular spot for large outdoor gatherings. And while Fitchburg was never an agricultural city, a few farms remain in the outlying districts. Some of this land is designated for agricultural use, and like the land in the watershed, will remain open for future generations.
Nice place to be, I guess. Everybody likes being near water.
Welcome to the live section of Fitchburg History. We're lucky to have two guests here tonight from the Fitchburg Greenway Committee. We have Janet Morrison and Ralph Baker. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, I'm Janet Morrison. I'm a member of the Fitchburg Greenway Committee. I'm also Executive Director of North County Land Trust, which owns some conservation land in the city.
Okay, and why did you become interested in environmentalism?
Well, as an Executive Director of a land trust, that is our core mission, is land conservation. And Fitchburg is a really important place for us to be working. As I indicated, we have the 150-acre Crocker Conservation Area here in the city, which surrounds Overlook Reservoir, on which we hold a conservation restriction. And we've been more recently involved in some urban park work, in which the Fitchburg Greenway Committee is also heavily involved. I happen to co-chair the Greenway Committee. We meet monthly, and membership is open to everyone who is interested in doing some real positive work toward improving natural resources in Fitchburg.
Okay, thank you. And Ralph, you are doing a lot of the same things?
I am. I'm Ralph Baker. I'm the Chairman and Chief Scientist for TerraTherm, which is a company I co-founded here in Fitchburg. It is actually an environmental firm, the largest environmental company in the city. We chose to come to Fitchburg because it had the right combination of characteristics, and for us that was not only the economic benefits, but also the environment that it's in. I live here in Fitchburg. I'm a member of the Greenway Committee and also a director of the Natural River Watershed Association. So for me, being an environmentalist is not only a vocation, it's an avocation too. I love the hiking, the cycling, and the cross-country skiing that the city has. It's really pretty unique. Here in Fitchburg, small, gritty, post-industrial city, also has access to some of the most wonderful natural resources of any small city in eastern Massachusetts, for sure.
I was surprised to learn that nearly 70% of the land is considered open.
I'm not at all surprised that it's that large a number. There's huge woodlands in the city. There's a lot of agricultural land in the northern part of the city in particular. And it's all sewn together really by the river. So as a member of the Greenway Committee, one of the things that we're trying to do is find connections that will enable people to access these beautiful places that have been featured in your documentary, and find a way to sort of sew them together and make them all accessible. I just visited my brother in Minneapolis last week, And I was amazed at what a greenway can become when it's farther along than ours is. There are paths, trails, and connections everywhere there. We can do that here. We have some wonderful features in our city that lend itself to doing that.
Super. Maybe, Janet, could you tell us a little bit about how the Greenways Committee gets started, since you're transplanted to our area? Janet?
Well, the Greenway Committee, I think, dates back to about 2000, 2001. At that time, the Army Corps of Engineers was doing a study of the Nashua River. Riverfront Park hadn't yet come on board. It was very much ad hoc at that time. I think Mayor Wong was then the Economic Development Director for the city of Fitchburg. And I remember early meetings at which she was the chair, and the Riverfront Park was being created at that time. Since then, our involvement has really intensified on the Greenway Committee, working with Mayor Wong's administration. We've been able to, I think, accomplish quite a bit. The situation with Riverfront Park, which we see here, has involved a restoration, not a restoration, but a second phase of the park in which there's some terracing down to the water to allow people to see the river, to access the river a little bit. It has become a very popular spot in Fitchburg. We have a farmer's market that is there every week now during the summer. Since last summer, there are a regular concert series and movies and other public activities. I think the park has actually borne out the hopes that we had for it.
Wonderful. Now, another interest of the Greenways Committee and your general involvement is the watershed area and the northern part of the city. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Certainly. Well, just north of the Upper Common is a block of land that is owned by the North County Land Trust, and that's called Crocker Conservation Area. That connects in turn with the Audubon Society's Flat Rock Sanctuary, and further north is also contiguous to a large block of land, about 1,700 acres, owned by the city of Fitchburg watershed, protecting our reservoirs up there. That huge block of land is a tremendous asset. It's got a lot of great trails in it. The Greenway Committee has been involved in trying to maintain and expand those trails, especially in the northern watershed. We've had a number of trail work days, very well attended, and so some of those trails that are now open to the public are marked. We'll eventually have a set of maps that people can access and go explore, and it's really fabulous. It's quite wild in the northern part of the city, and it's only a short distance from town. So the yellow area is the first one that I mentioned, North County Land Trust land. The light purple is the Mass Audubon Sanctuary, which many people are familiar with it. You can access it also through the back of Burbank Hospital. And then the green area is the beginning, just the southern portion of the city of Fitchburg's northern watershed land that extends all the way into Ashby and Ashburnham.
We have several other reservoirs in other parts, in other cities, and that all connects up with that, yeah. One thing that you mentioned on the email you sent me, Janet, was the pavement to peak, linking downtown Fitchburg to Mount Ortatic. Can you tell us about that plan?
Sure. Well, those of us who do land conservation for a living are always interested in landscape scale preservation of land and in making connections between conservation areas. That's good not only for habitat and natural resource conservation, but also for recreation. Once again, we are very interested, and this is a group of Greenway Committee members that you can see there, in making that connection. it would start downtown in Fitchburg, since the North County Land Trust's Crocker Conservation Area is really literally about a quarter mile from the neighborhoods there. And you could literally walk north through the City of Fitchburg watershed land into Ashby. And then we have been, North County and the Fitchburg Green Wave Committee have been working together to help the City of Fitchburg conserve more land in that watershed. And those connections are helping to get us to Mount Watatic, which is right on the New Hampshire line, as many people know, sort of sitting on the corner of Ashby and Ashburnham. And if there's a map that may come up that would show a little bit of what we're trying to do and how those connections are made. They're basically made through Ashby and into Ashburnham, and would be along the Midstate Trail,
Okay.
which runs, as many people know, is a long-distance trail running from Rhode Island into New Hampshire, crosses Massachusetts. And here is a picture of that map where you can kind of see the watershed on the bottom right quadrant, and Fitchburg Reservoir. You can see a little bit of a red patch, which is some of the land that North County helped to conserve for the City of Fitchburg. And the green patches basically are what you see as conserved land. So there's some linkages that need to be made, but we think that is something that is doable, even perhaps within the next 5 to 10 years.
That would be wonderful. I was also not surprised to learn, but the Wapak Trail, which isn't that far from here, starts in Ashby, is, I think, the oldest interstate walking trail that exists. Mm-hmm. So there is a history of being involved with trail building and trail making here, so that should be a very interesting project for you to do.
Yeah. The Wapak Trail actually starts at Mount Watatic and runs north along that ridge of hills into New Hampshire a ways to Pack Monadnock.
Right, ends at North Pack. Well, actually at the bottom of North Pack.
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. We just have a few minutes left. Maybe you could tell us some ways that people could take some ownership in projects like this. Can they be advocates for it? Can they volunteer? What can people do?
Well, Mayor Whitney mentioned one of the, I think, principal challenges that we have, which is to develop friends groups that will support their local parks, especially the passive parks, such as Gateway Park. That will require people to step up and get active. As she mentioned, there's going to be community gardens there, but also other features that can be used for small performance or just walking, passive recreation. That's one of the principal ways to get involved. Also, we do these trail days and other things like that can involve anybody.
Great, and those are usually pretty well publicized, so people can keep tuned and figure out what's going on. I'd like to thank both of you for coming here tonight to talk about open space, and wish you luck with all of your future endeavors.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.